Hello, and welcome to the Stranger Things panel. Good, I said Stranger Things, not Stranger Kids, because that's what I call it. Because they're like, oh, where's this room at? Oh, Stranger Kids are over there. They're cool. But obviously we're all here because we love the show, which really took everything, bam, by storm. That wasn't a Marvel Netflix show, right? So we're going to talk about what we love about it, and you know, it comes from a period of my youth as well as along with other people's. The 80s, which is still a huge thing now, 30 years later. And D&D, which is, come on, geeks, come on. And just what we love about, you know, my personal thing, I love the soundtrack. Has a lot of Carpenter in it. Stephen King is a big influence in it. And I like the show pays tribute, not ripping off, but paying tribute to the things we love about horror and that kind of youthfulness. So we're going to start here and just go down and introduce yourselves and promote your thing.
All right, my name is Trent Duncan. I'm a local filmmaker. I do epic horror battles on YouTube. So they're fan films. If you guys like Michael, Jason, Freddy, Ghostface, all them, come grab a flyer, check it out, subscribe on YouTube. I just tons of fan films, tons of horror stuff.
I'm LJ Heydorn. I'm an epic fantasy author doing Age of the Fallen. Also have a YouTube channel which we feature role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons. And
we're winning here. I'm Justin Jordan. I don't know what the shirt says. Underground Horror Radio. Okay. I run a radio station. Also have a couple of podcasts on there with my wife, who's the redhead outside with no tattoos, and we do that together. It's awesome, and I get to moderate panels. So yes.
Hi, I'm Jenny Ashford, and I write horror fiction and paranormal nonfiction. And I'm also, my books are out there on the table, by the way. And I also co-host a podcast called 13 O'Clock, which is about serial killers, UFOs, all kind of weird paranormal kind of stuff. And I co-host that with my co-host Tom Ross, the bald guy out there in the swank jacket.
My name is Chris Helton, and I design and publish tabletop role-playing games. I have played D&D since 1979, and I actually lived in Indiana in 1982. So
yes.
There you go.
I'm
he is actually one of the living Stranger Things.
Actually, no, they'd be younger than me, so I would have been one of the high school kids. So
you can be Barb.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Indy McDaniel. I'm very much a child of the 80s. I wrote Nadia's Nights, which is an action horror series. It's very much evocative of 80s action horror with lots of explosions and gunfights and gore and violence and foul language.
Yay.
All the good stuff.
So let's just get it out and open there. Guys, what do you like about the show?
I like the fact that, and it's not just Stranger Things, it's this kind of new thing that's happening that I've taken to calling neo-nostalgia. Because it's this stuff that's like, yeah, Stranger Things is it pays a lot of homage to the 80s, but it also feels like it was made in the 80s.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, the way it was shot?
Yeah, the way it was shot, the soundtrack, like even the characters feel like 80s characters, only it was made like last year or this year. Which is kind of
reliving your childhood.
You really wouldn't know it was shot last year. The way it was edited and the filters and everything.
If you burned that to or recorded it onto a crappy VHS tape and like sewed it over it and just showed it to someone who didn't know, they'd be like, "Oh, this is clearly from the '80s. This is made in the '80s."
I don't know if there was anything that's good in the '80s at that time. At least on television.
You should explain to everyone under 18 what a VHS is.
Oh, it's kind of like a Blu-ray, only different.
VHS? Yeah. It was a box, you blow on it.
Yeah. No, that's a Nintendo cartridge.
I think the 80s just brings back the good memories of the 80s. Not necessarily this is an accurate representation of everything in the 80s. Because if we went back to go watch the shows that we'd watch back in the 80s, we'd probably go like, I can't believe I watched that. But I think it brings the best out of what we think about the 80s.
For me, it was definitely the soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
Because I know I'm a big film guy, and I love film and picture and movies and stuff, but it's really the music that pulls you in. If you think of all the great films from 80s and 90s, you know, Indiana Jones, Star Wars, Jurassic Park, it's the soundtracks that you hear that just a little bit of it, and it's like, oh, you know exactly what it's from. And so for me, I was kind of late to the show. Everybody was talking about it. I was like, okay, I'll watch it now. And I ended up watching it. And then the sound came, I was like, oh my god, it kind of stuck me. It had that little bit of a Tron feel, actually, which I thought was great.
And then the whole, just the title, glowing,
yeah, absolutely.
Stephen
Sphinx
King
Arcade.
book kind of.
Yeah, the thing is, you're saying it's more like film, and that's what I meant. There were no TV shows like that in the 80s, at least
No.
science fiction and fantasy wise. I mean,
Yeah.
that was my big Doctor Who period. You know?
Well, that was big over here in the 80s was Tom Baker.
Yeah.
So says my wife. I wasn't watching Doctor Who then,
She's always right.
as far as I know. I don't tell her otherwise. As far as the score goes, first thing I thought of Carpenter. You know, Halloween, Escape from New York. Those. I mean, he was the man when it came to compose the thing. He was the man when it came to composing stuff on a Casio. I mean, it was awesome. I love those movies. So that soundtrack and the title sequence, I'm just like, okay, what is this? You know, and I'm not gonna lie, believe it or not, at first, like the first 2 episodes, I was kind of like, why I love the kids, and I think that whole thing is great. It reminds me when I was a kid. I'm not a kid now, so it's hard for me to kind of relate. Because they're like, yeah, we're gonna play games. I'm like, I have bills. But once they got to the monster stuff going on, and then I figured out what 11 was doing and stuff, I'm like, okay, the show's. And then after that, I was like completely hooked. I watched everything in a row, and I'm like, okay, this is really great. I just think it's really brilliant, and it's the neo nostalgia. I mean, I'm in my 30s. Nintendo, the Thing poster, Evil Dead, like those were all things I grew up with, and that hits home for me because now the Clash. Oh yeah, well definitely with the punk rock Clash. What's that weird song your brother likes? It's not weird, it's punk. But I love that, you know, because again, as we get older, for me being in that period, you know, movies, drive-ins, even arcades, those were all things that I still to this day were like, I want to go do that there, as opposed to sitting home and on my phone. That's just me, though.
Yeah, see, it's funny because back then I was the older brother who was the one listening to the stuff like the Clash, so that parts were easier for me. It was funny because I was talking yesterday to Indy, and I'm actually probably going to be sort of the villain of this piece because I didn't like Stranger Things. And
well, that's
there it is. Yes, rightfully boo him.
I got about 3 episodes in, and I ended up rage quitting, and I could not watch the show any longer. Yep,
You're like, this is not how it was. What was the issue?
It was a number. There was a few things. One is, like I said, you know, I grew up in Indiana then, and it kept bugging me that it wasn't actually Indiana, and it didn't feel like Indiana or really look like Indiana. And all I kept thinking was, have any of these people ever been to Indiana? Because it just. Most states have a particular vibe to them. Indiana's really isn't particularly interesting. I mean, it's a fairly dull place to grow up but there's like 3 episodes and I didn't see a single cornfield. and
it was like winter or like Christmas time.
It doesn't. Yeah, I mean,
still have it though.
You can't. I mean, I grew up in a few parts of the state, and even in the big city, it's not that far from like agriculture, and you see, you know, soybeans and corn and all this stuff.
Didn't it look a lot like Gary, Hammond area, like Chicagoland?
Not even that, because I mean, Gary was a really weird place in the 80s because I mean you could like see the air.
Flowing trees and everything.
And I mean you would.
But the whole industrial.
Yeah, I mean if you drove through Gary and rolled down your car windows, the air had a taste like a battery. I mean, it was like, you know, that licking the battery thing you do as a kid? The air was like that. So it was just, I don't know, and
I can see that.
And that was before I even got to the D&D stuff. The D&D stuff really upset me. And then between that, I just went, I can't watch this show anymore.
For the state thing, I can actually relate to that, not because I'm in Indiana or ever been there, no. I see a lot of TV, I watch a lot of TV, and a lot of stuff that's like, some of it's accurate. The ones that are shot in Florida, I know. But the ones where, like, there was a show Drive that Nathan Fillion was on for, like, 2 episodes before they canceled it before. He's had the Firefly effect again. And they were like, we're in Jupiter, Florida. I grew up in Jupiter, Florida. I was in Stuart, Florida, which is south from here. And I'm like, that's not the lighthouse. I know that lighthouse. Like, that's just the light spinning somewhere, and I don't know that restaurant they're at.
Well,
That's not real.
It's like, you know, what it must feel like for people in like New York or in LA when they see all those TV shows that are shot in Vancouver.
Yeah, like Jason goes to takes Manhattan.
Yeah. So.
This is silly, but I watched like one of the many seasons of all the different Power Rangers, and one time they said they're in the Everglades, but it was like dry.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much looked like New Zealand where they were filming it, but it was like a canyon. And I'm like,
Did you ever see
the Everglades have a canyon now, and it's all dry, and it's not a swamp. That's weird.
That's why we had to save the rainforest, man.
I'm like, I'm from here. That's not what it looks like. You can't dig without water coming up. Like, what are you doing? So I get, like, now they're filming Ash vs. Evil Dead, and they're like, we're in Michigan. I'm like, you're in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Good job with replicating the house, though, that was in Tennessee.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I mean, I mean, it's not like there were. No, you did. We'll slightly.
He'll rage with the panel.
So it's safe to say nobody in Indiana likes Stranger Things.
Huh?
Nobody from Indiana likes Stranger Things. It's not.
I don't know. It's just it's weird. And I mean, there were things that I did like the music. I love the music mostly because I was a big fan of John Carpenter and his stuff. And when I heard that music first, I was like, it sounded like something came almost exactly out of a John Carpenter movie. And I was getting into things like that, and it was, I mean, the atmosphere was really good. It was very well written. The characters.
They're just like nitpicking these little things.
Yeah, but it's just the things that I'm going, hey, this is a show about, God damn it. And it's because I didn't watch it at first, and so I had like 3 months to build. I waited 3 months before I even started watching this because I knew if I went any longer, people were going to start spoiling it. But I had like 3 months of my Facebook feed going, this is the best portrayal of gaming ever. And so I started watching it, but I can't watch this.
But the way I looked at it, I was just tickled that the show was even about gaming. Because when you look at it, as far as all the aspects of the show, they were gaming aspects.
Yeah.
And I think if you look back as say kids that age, maybe your games would run that way if you were kids that age.
Yeah.
Versus what we would play as adults today. I mean, they make up things, and this is what happens. The Demogorgon comes out and slays you all, or you slay it, and then walk away with the treasure hoard. So.
Oh yeah, I mean definitely there was. I mean, it was kind of like on the surface they had the kind of stuff, and then it just as you tried to sink below the surface, it pissed me off.
This is going to turn into an intervention.
I was just going to say, to take that almost a step further, there's a video you guys might enjoy, and you may have even already seen it, but they actually have some people that are actually watching the show Stranger Things, and the one guy's like, that walkie-talkie didn't come out until 85. Exactly. And then he's like, that truck wasn't even made until 87. They're like, shut up.
Is it like Tyson debunking Stranger Things?
Because I said the same thing to you. It's like I go, okay. Demogorgon was not in that version of D&D.
It becomes the thing where it's like, oh, there's a supernatural psychic. That's normal, but that is not right.
Right. I have no problem with a genetically experimented 3T. Right. However, if you have Demogorgon in the wrong version of D&D, it pisses me off. I can't show you.
The fun is gone.
I felt the same way when what's the show think about? Sleepy Hollow. Go.
That's not a Kabod Crane.
No, the one I had to think about Crane was he's a little bit young to be tenured at Oxford, isn't he? So.
Well, from his time, everybody died younger too.
Right, so to knock this out of the park, I as a big comic book fan growing up in the '90s, before it was like everybody, it's cool now, and I was like, I got beat up. I still think it's
really.
Oh yeah.
Oh okay.
Oh yeah, but I don't think it was the comics because I mouthed off to people. I think.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
But it wasn't the cool thing. But anyway, I grew up on comics and stuff, so now I have all these movies and stuff. And then when I started watching this version of The Flash, when they started talking about, I don't want to give too much away, but just like they have all these different Earths, and that was in the DC Comics too, Crisis on Infinite Earths. I was like, Okay, cool. This solves every problem I've ever had with anything. Smallville, that's a different Earth. That's Earth 8. Fine, cool. Christopher Reeve Superman, he's got his own Earth. That's awesome. It all fits together now. Perfectly fine. I can't get mad anymore. It all makes sense. I'm okay. People hate Gotham. Gotham is his own Earth. That Jim Gordon's probably going to become Batman and inspires Bruce. I'm good with that too. I don't care. I'm no longer mad at the Nolan trilogy. Whatever. That Joker was that guy. Cool. Like it took away all the nerd rage I had before when everybody's online like, I hate you. So, but this show, I like the show. Just, you know, and not nitpicking. I guess because I was like, let's see, it took place in '83. I was 1. I didn't remember the walkie-talkie. I guess I'm surprised there was no Teddy Ruxpin. That might have came out in '87, but I had one. I know. Google Teddy Ruxpin.
That might have been '85, actually.
Well, that might have been right. But I like the show a lot, and the characters, I will say, they're genuine. I think. I mean, for being kids, I think they're pretty genuine.
I definitely feel like, I mean, that was the first thing I really, because I was kind of late coming to the show too. So I'd heard all the hype, and I was like, yeah, I got to get around to watching that. Then I finally did. But I mean, I was the same age as those kids in that year. You know, I was 11 or 12 years old in 1983, and the thing I liked about it, it felt very lived in. Like, inside people's houses, all the stuff that was in there, like the stuff that was on the walls, their furniture and stuff. I'm like, oh my god.
The Millennium Falcon.
We had that couch, we had that rug, we had, you know what I mean? We had those dishes. So it was almost like, I mean, whoever, and I know the guys that wrote it.
The Duffer Brothers?
Yeah, they were born in '84, right? So they must have had somebody telling them, hey, everybody had this on their wall, and everybody had that on their wall.
Or they looked at old Polaroids.
Or they looked at old Polaroids, like that, because that looked just like
Google
our house.
Polaroids.
Well, it was nice. Also, you got to see something you don't normally see in television, where television is usually about affluent families, unless it's to provide like a counterpoint to the affluent families, you know, like Fresh Prince or something like that. But so you don't often see a lot of TV about, you know, people who buy their couches at, you know, Salvation Army store and or, you know, use the credit that they get from work to get the stuff for their house. So I mean that was a very cool element to that. There were parts that were very grounded in that particular time and place, but
The walkie-talkie.
But then people brought out the walkie-talkie, ruined the whole thing.
I thought it was cool that they had the walkie-talkie.
Actually, I bought the walkie-talkie because I thought I had a Star Trek walkie-talkie like before that time, so that's why I was willing to buy it.
I like the walkie-talkies. I thought it was kind of cool because it's like you look back, especially so we all kind of grew up in that era because as I went on, we didn't have these yet, and now kids these days, you know, really get to see like. Well, how did they talk to each other? They either called on the phone, like with their boyfriend in the bedroom, you know, the girls and the guys, or the kids had walkie-talkies. I mean, those were decent range walkie-talkies. And the CBs, they were interested in, like, the radio club. I thought that was kind of cool, because I'm, like, a geek about radio stuff. So.
Yeah, I think one of the important questions about the whole show is, who thinks the creature and 11 are the same?
Ooh. I'm going to ask one from next door.
Yeah. Anybody else come to that?
Didn't we see them together at the same time?
Listen, we saw
because they were in alternate dimensions all the way until the last episode. They were never in the same place.
But also too is she said I am the monster.
And she said I have to go when she was sending the monster back.
Right.
I think it was.
I got the sense specifically that they're the same because she created the monster. Like I didn't necessarily feel like he came from somewhere other than her. That was just a feeling that I got. I don't know how right I am.
Okay, so I think she opened the gate is what she did. I didn't think that I was like part of her, but I think she's saying I'm the monster because I'm the one that opened the gate.
Right.
Yeah. But there was nothing else in the Upside Down other than the monster, right?
I do think since they had.
That's true. We don't know that. We didn't see it.
When she went there, it was black, but when everybody else went there was an opposite version of this.
question. Yeah, since 11 is the 11th kid, you're kind of assuming there might be other kids that may have similar monsters to contend with.
There might be
others.
Each new show is gonna be like 10, 9, 8, 7.
Sorry, season 2 will go with kid 5.
No, what happened to the kids we met last season?
You can't make fun of that.
There's one kid, I think he's
Yeah, right? And they're like, hey, wait, we're coming up to a regeneration limit. Quick, fix it.
They all like die and they reincarnate as someone
Hey,
else.
whatever. Sounds good.
I'm a weird guy.
I have this one theory where the Demogorgon is not attracted to blood and it's attracted to energy because when the light comes, and also when they're at the school at the end, the Demogorgon came out the wall, but like it didn't go after the dead bodies, it went after the person that was alive, and the person that was alive was energy, and so maybe it knew that 11 was there, and that also that where the Hawkins ladder is like a light and like a scary. So I thought it was like attractive.
I agree with that.
What about the pool with Barb?
Maybe.
Just gives off a lot of energy.
Barb is also.
Maybe Barb's just too radiating.
Also, with Will, it took Will too, but Will, I feel like he kind of has some certain powers that maybe you don't know, like the energy, the thing that was attracted to him too. Is like this power thing.
I think Will was exerting fear. Like that's at your body's heightened. Like when you get fear, your body's pumping out all those enzymes and stuff, so you can get out of there. So I think he was feeding off that energy that he was pumping off that he was scared of.
Yeah, we did. My friends and I watched through the whole thing because we were trying to figure out like what was like attracting the thing, and we noticed it was whenever anybody was upset.
Okay.
So like a negative energy.
Yeah, like negative emotions.
So Winona Ryder.
Well, it might be that it feeds off negative energy or fear, because, you know, whenever Will was scared, that's when it came. Whenever 11, when they were all running, they were all scared because they knew that it was coming, and it was coming because they were all afraid. Barb was afraid because she was bleeding, so it might be that it's feeding off of fear, too.
Freddy Krueger.
Doesn't it feel like the deer in the woods?
It was afraid.
Deer's afraid.
Scared of the dark.
One of the other things was also just kind of being upset, like crying and everything, because I noticed at the very beginning when Will admitted to Mike that he had lost, that he rolled a 7, the lights on the porch flickered after that. And then when he was riding by himself, the flashlight on the front of his bike flickered, and then it showed up. So I thought maybe that.
Well, here's another thing too, is maybe with 11 being able to go and pick up anybody in the world, maybe she ended up contacting these kids a little bit, knowing they were close by. Just sensing them. It says she could sense anywhere in the world and focus in on something. So she just sensed these kids who were not ordinary, who were different than the normal kids of the school. And that's why they were kind of targeted to begin with, because she already felt them there. This creature had that link, possibly, with her, and that's why Will was taking me.
All right. So what else what do you like?
What else do I got? Well, honestly, I think the reason why it works, and I think the reason why it wasn't just kind of a nostalgia piece. I mean, I did like that aspect of it because, you know, that's what I grew up watching. I grew up watching Stephen King stuff, John Carpenter stuff, The Goonies, all that kind of stuff, and that reminded me. And Firestarter, it reminded me of that too, with the secret government project and all that kind of stuff. But I think really what made it work was the emotional connection you felt with the characters. And I mean, and it was so short, like over, it was just 8 episodes. But I still felt like, I mean, I was crying at that. I'm not gonna lie. You know what I mean? I'm not proud. But, you know, I really felt like, you know, when Will got back and they were all so happy and stuff like that, and I was like, man, they just did such a good job establishing, you know, an emotional connection with the audience, with the characters. And I think that was really, I mean, that was really great writing. And it was so spare. They didn't waste a lot of time on a lot of extraneous kind of things. They just kind of stayed with the story. They stayed with the characters. You know, they didn't wander around doing other things.
I like the sheriff. I thought he was
Yes, he's a great character.
That's a good point. Let's talk on that for a second. Like, who was your favorite character that you were attached to? Because when I do a lot of screenwriting, a lot of movies, and you watch a lot of films, you are attracted to movies and characters that you actually like. And I don't know about any of you guys, but sometimes you'll see movies when you just don't care about the characters, and then you just hate the movie. Like Chappie, for instance, I did not care about the characters, and so I just hated the movie, even though the special effects and stuff were good. So in Stranger Things, I mean, none of the characters really just jumped out at me, but the one that I liked the most was the sheriff, of course, because the imperfect hero. First you see him in the morning, drinking the beer, and then all of a sudden now he has this responsibility he has to do. So everybody has that one character that they're kind of pulled to a little bit. For me, it was the sheriff, and I think we're good on the line.
No, I mean, I do like the sheriff. I think he was one of the most well-rounded characters as far as there's a lot of history behind it. There was a lot more going on than just, hey, I'm the sheriff. You know, there was a personal investment with his character in the story.
Well, I love the sheriff. I also thought Winona Ryder was awesome because she just went full crazy, but she was right the whole time. That was the kind of
well, I don't think that's. If she's right the whole time, I don't think she went crazy. I mean, she just went.
But to everybody else, she went crazy, and she was acting sporadic. But she's a worried mother. I get that.
She was like a good mom.
Right.
Yeah.
So, everybody else looks, she's like, okay, well, something's wrong with her, the Christmas lights and the blah. But it worked, and I thought it was really, really well done, and I thought she was really cool.
Yeah, I thought she did a really good job conveying how that would feel if you knew something like that was going on, but no one would listen to you, and she knew she sounded crazy. That was the sad thing, and I think she did a really good job of conveying, look, I know I sound crazy, but all this stuff is really going on, and everyone's like, what?
It's like a mother's intuition, about...
Yeah, and everyone was just blowing her
Then
off.
she's at the store again, just bring it up.
Yeah.
Just, totally bring it up.
I can't even deal with it. But I did love the sheriff also, and I liked the interaction between the two of them, especially, when he went to the morgue and cut that body open when he came to your house. So, I really like that exchange.
I think that, a lot of people have said this in the press, but obviously it's very evocative of the Steven Spielberg movies, and I think that part two with Poltergeist, where Jo Beth Williams was seemed crazy, out of her mind, where she was trying to connect with her child, and, the whole thing with E.T., with Close Encounters, I mean, there's just, all the Spielberg movies are really represented in that, and the characters, they're very evocative of the Spielberg characters, the mother in E.T., and things like that.
And even Jaws with the sheriff literally going to cut open a body to confirm, that's straight out of Jaws.
Yeah. And then I'll answer. We'll get a couple questions.
For me, I think it was the sheriff too, but in my case, it was because he was sort of the Kurt Russell of the movie, which you can't really do 80s without a Kurt Russell character.
Yeah. You really can't.
And he, it's like it had that Kurt Russell arc. It's like he starts out as the skeptic, and he's like, "This is crap. You people are crazy. I don't know what the hell's going on." And then it's like, "Oh shit! I just saw what I just saw." And he goes, "Well, then I guess they're not crazy." And then he just goes with it for the rest of the story.
Andy?
I mean, that's one of the things I loved about that show is that, a lot of people focus on the kids because their performances were amazing, and Winona Ryder and the sheriff and everything like that. But I really can't think of too many of the characters that felt flat or unrealistic. Probably one of my favorite characters in that entire series was their was he their science teacher?
Yeah.
And he's so well, he's not in much of it, but he's so well developed to the point that they're coming to him. And he's like, it's date night. I really want to get laid, but wait, what's that about a sensory deprivation chamber? Okay, I'm intrigued. I'm gonna go with you kids.
Well, no, I liked him too, but only because they gave him a life. They could have just simply made him a one-note character or expositionary character just to explain stuff. And then,
it's almost like here's your character background for this part that you're about to play. So go ahead and mix it up a little bit.
And even a character like Barb, who is in maybe 3 or 4 scenes.
I think everybody's like,
by the time she's gone, everyone's like, justice for Barb. And it's like, you didn't really get to know her, but yeah, the little bit she was there, she was really cool. So
I felt like Dustin was a good character because he's the only kid really with common sense.
Yeah. I really liked him too because he's kind of adorable.
When they first started learning, he's like, we're walking into the woods where Will was taken and we have no weapons to use in arsenal, so he's like the only one that thinks before he does. And then I also have a question. I heard that Millie Bobby Brown is only going to be back in there for flashbacks. Is that true?
For what?
Sounds like you might know.
I have this theory where I think we'll know if Millie's only going to be in flashbacks if she shaves her head again. Because if it's flashbacks, then she would probably have a shaved head. But I mean, right now she's still growing out her hair, so it could be that she's trapped in the upside down. I mean, if she's trapped in the upside down for a year, she would have longer hair. So I think it's kind of, that might be a clue if she shaves her head or not, if it's flashback.
They're a fun way to put her in that line. It's really long.
I don't think she's allowed to tell you anyway. You had a question.
Well, two things. I'd like to make this comment about how it just feels like Winona Ryder was training for this show ever since Girl Interrupted. I mean, she does crazy well, and her personal life is, you know, so it's easy. And even in Girl Interrupted, she made a lot of sense. But in this one, I knew it was Winona Ryder, obviously watching her, and I think it took me a full 3 episodes before I really realized, like, wait a minute, that is Winona Ryder, and that's not Winona Ryder at all, and it's awesome. But I like the fact that she's one of the only, like, you know, cornerstones of, you know, actors that we are familiar with.
Yeah.
So a lot of this show, you know, everyone's always looking for something new and something that they haven't seen before, and this is something we've seen before but haven't seen at all. Right. And the, you know, the anonymity of the actors was a huge selling point for this show as well, because you could see their talents that no one's familiar with, and give them their own brand, and not have anything to base their performances off of.
Yeah. They did really well. Everybody did, I thought, did really well.
Seeing Winona Ryder play a mom took a little getting used to.
It was weird.
She was Spock's mother.
She was Spock's mom, yeah.
But that's like, she's dead. She was there by Spock, planet's gone. Spoiler.
Well, to your point, I mean, Matthew Modine is a well-known actor, but they made him look totally unrecognizable. The first scene
Is he the sheriff?
No, he was
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah. He's like the bad guy.
The white hair. I didn't realize it. I knew he was in the series, but I didn't make the connection the first time I saw him. So they did, to that point, really, they did kind of use actors or characters who didn't really have a true identity that we.
Or their identity was so old that you couldn't relate to them in this new one. It was something fresh.
Who else?
I feel like people are bypassing Lucas. It took me in the entire show, but by the end of the show, I was like, okay, while I appreciate our living it up D&D Goonies over here, Lucas goes to his father's house and is like, I have a knife and a walkie-talkie and a headband, and I'm riding to the evil lair and getting things done. And everyone else is like, in the background, and I'm like, why is this kid the only one who actually shows up with a plan and weapons? And everybody else is like...
He was starting to get feelings for girls, so he was too busy chasing that around.
Well,
I mean, I get it. I've been there.
But everyone's like, oh, Dustin. And
Lucas
I'm like,
is the
Lucas
ranger.
brought weapons.
He's the
He
ranger.
brought weapons, you know?
He's the ranger. He's prepared.
Yeah, he's totally on it, you know? And I was like, you guys are bypassing this kid. He's very useful.
Well, one thing I can say, though, is that if this would have happened to a group of kids that were gamers, it would have been the gamers that would have shown up with the weapons.
Yeah. They would have made it in the backyard with a knife and a stick.
Because they would have been going, okay, you know, I need my 10-foot pole, I need rope, and
we have rations.
Yeah. In the 80s, you weren't really supervised as much. Like you could wander around all day and come back at night. So we can go somewhere and make some weapons real quick. Now it's like, what are you doing on YouTube? Look how to make weapons.
But yeah, so I mean, things like that. It's like going, well, because I knew kids like that then, and so yeah,
in Indiana,
yeah. I mean, you know, we had I had a friend who we had a big woods behind the apartments where we lived, and one of my friends had a .22 rifle, and so we would go back there with that and shoot at things we shouldn't be shooting at. And you know,
that's part of being a kid. That's part of being a kid.
Yeah. In the 80s, yeah. I mean, you know, we'd have that. There'd be a couple of knives, and you know, we would be off all day in the woods, and so you know, the kid showing up with that, it's like going, well, why wouldn't he?
I did like that he had the slingshot because that was a big thing back then. Now they have an airsoft gun or something, but or a paintball gun or whatever. But
well, slingshots were a lot of work too.
It's still pretty awesome.
It was evocative of it, I think, probably.
I just wanted to make the comment that I agree with that. There's a lot of the details. I was born and raised in Michigan, and I was 22 in '82, so. But that, yeah, some of the details are off, time-wise, and like the gaming details. But as an emotional portrait in broad brushstrokes of what it felt like to live and grow up in the Midwest in the '80s, I feel like it nailed it. And the fact that all of the characters made such an emotional, we all became so emotionally attached, like you said. That I feel like that's enough of a bond between the fans and the show that they can be forgiven for the, maybe not for the Demogorgon, but all the other mistakes can be brushed aside, because in the big picture, what a great, brush stroke emotionally for all of us to reconnect with the 80s and for our kids to experience what the 80s were like.
Yeah, I know when I looked at the last 10 minutes of it, I don't know how anybody else felt about it, but I was like, no, this can't be the end of the show. And I was really happy when I saw him go up to the sink and just puke out that little slug thing, and I was like, yes, season 2, I can't wait.
Do you think it's gonna contaminate something? There's so many theories of what is going to happen, what it's going to do.
I'm still going with that whole Demogorgon thing with the two heads and everything else, and how 11 is one of the other heads. I mean, to me, it seems like that works, because Demogorgon traditionally is a chaotic beast. Well, and would fight against probably itself.
But it wasn't in that version of D&D.
It goes back to Elvis Wizardry, which goes back to the 70s, I think.
It was one of the demon princes of D&D.
Turning lights off and things like that.
Yeah.
I think the kids called it that because they had no idea what to call it. I know, I simplified it. Sorry. But that makes sense because they're kids. It's like, what is that? That's a Demogorgon.
I think we could just go with your thing with the DC comics. This happens on Earth too.
I think the other cool thing about it, nostalgia-wise, is I know now a lot of things are coming back to their classic. But records are big now again. Expensive, but they're back. But if it wasn't back, it was cool that they still had a record player, and because records are awesome, they sound really good. And especially now everything's on MP3s, and I deal with a lot of MP3s, so I'm not a snob, but records are awesome. So I thought that was really cool, having a record player and playing.
You can get all the Stranger Things soundtrack on it.
See, that's fun. There you go.
On a side tangent from that too, all the smoking that was in the movie.
Oh yeah.
Because how many times in PC movies in Hollywood nowadays they don't pick up a cigarette or have
the only
anything.
time you see people smoking is on Mad Men, which was about a different era then too.
And then you came from you're in a building that's been around for a while when you look up and you see the yellow tiles on it.
Yeah. So hopefully they're maybe past that, because we went through the whole phase of smoking's bad, cancer, yeah, we got it. Okay, now can we put it back?
Drinking's still okay.
Every time the sheriff walked into the sheriff office, that was the first thing he did.
Yeah.
And you're smoking in a federal building?
Yeah. Now it feels like, wait a minute, that's not right.
It was funny, we were talking about almost that same point about seeing older movies from that time period, and I was watching Foxy Brown recently, and there's a scene where they're smoking in a mall food court. And even though I remember when you could smoke in a mall and in the food court, just watching these people eating fast food with one hand and going.
You're like, somebody's going to walk up to you, you're going to get in a lot of trouble.
In Ghostbusters, the 84 version of Ghostbusters, they're smoked. Dan Aykroyd, everybody was smoking. Winston, just
in
the elevator.
He's smoking in a library.
It does, because I remember restaurants later in the 80s, 90s started doing the whole sections. But before that, it was everywhere. So my mom smoked cigarettes, so it was every day, every car, the ashtray, burn spots in the car. So it's that is pretty awesome. Really smoking, yeah.
I was just happy the sheriff was drinking Schlitz beer.
Yes! My grandfather drinks Schlitz beer. My uncle liked the malt liquor, the Bull. Yeah, it's not good.
I just wanted to get your
your viewpoint on CGI, and do you think that this series was more successful because you did not see the monster that much until like the 4th, 5th episode, or do you think that if they had showed more of the monster and maybe used more CGI, do you think that would have ruined it?
I mean,
I wanted to see a little bit more of the monster sooner. They didn't necessarily have to show the whole thing, but I kind of wanted to see more before getting into it, to tease you a little bit more.
They did kind of the Jaws thing. You know, they didn't show it till later, which was
pass in front of the camera.
But that was because at the time that shark wasn't working. And but as far as like the CGI, I'm not like the biggest CGI guy because up until The Shallows, really, you can't do a shark or really a werewolf good in CGI. But the effects was good enough where it didn't look like CGI from like 2002. You know what I mean? Or sci-fi with no budget. They did it with enough budget where it didn't look like crap. So it didn't really affect me at all. I was just happy by the grain of the damn picture and how everything felt and looked, you know, pretty nostalgic and, you know, correct. Except for the tiny details.
I think that was probably inadvertent that they did it that way, because I think the reason why they were doing that is because of the homage. And you know, they were kind of referring back to the movies that, like, you know, the John Carpenter stuff, where they wouldn't show the monster until the big moment, mostly because they didn't really have the money to show the monster. Right. Mm-hmm. And so, by, you know, doing that mode, they made it. They kind of made it easier on themselves. I don't think it was a purposeful. They were thinking, okay, you know, we've got this really sucky visual effect, so we really have to hold off as long as we possibly can. But by doing the way that they did it back in those 80s movies, they kind of made it a little easier on themselves, I guess, is a good way to...
I think we get spoiled too much with movies nowadays, because, you know, sometimes it's right in the first 5 minutes of the movie, there's the monster, full form, and you know what to expect. You know what they look like. You know, there's nothing left mysterious about them. And by pulling that out and just, you know, little glimpses here and there, you know, there's still something left to the monster to discover.
Like the
Sometimes they showed in the trailer.
But on the other hand, too, like, the special effects are so good. Like, you see the Graham, those monsters are amazing, so you want to see them too.
And then,
but I understand that this keeping it.
Then there's the time where you want to see the monster more in the movie, but they just kept teasing you with Godzilla up until the end, and you're like, well, now we're here, but the people, I'm sick of the people. Shoot more blue.
Exactly.
But as soon
you
as
don't
that,
get past the 3rd episode.
As soon as that blue fire lit up and everything, I'm like, oh, now I remember why I like Godzilla. Because I grew up, you know, the Saturday TBS, like, cheesy Godzilla dance.
Well, you sat down for Godzilla for a monster movie. You wanted to see monster action.
People,
kaiju, kaiju on kaiju or something. Someone getting stepped on.
Yeah, 20 minutes left. Here we go. Here's what it is. I'm like, well, I should skip here next time.
Yeah.
DVD's great. Just skip to what you want. That's the great thing about Netflix. Fast forward here. But yeah, I think, you know, that's a good question about the CGI and stuff. I mean, I thought it looked all pretty good.
They didn't show it much, which I thought was good. In general, in horror or sci-fi, I prefer that they don't show the monster very much, just glimpses, just to kind of keep you watching and to kind of suck you in. I know they probably have to show it, you know, eventually. And you know, I think they did it good. They showed some restraint, and I was still interested. I was like, what does it look like? What is that? So you know, that kind of kept me watching too.
I mean, that's like the less is more thing.
Yeah,
they did it in Jaws and Alien.
And it's funny because back then that was more of a technical problem.
Right.
Some of it,
right?
But it
works
became a good stable.
Because it's the playground of the mind. Like
Right.
whatever, like you get quick glimpses of something, but you don't have a clear image of it. So your mind makes up the details, and most of the time, whatever you conjure up in your head, because it's going to be personalized to you, is going to be way scarier than anything that you see in full detail. Because you're going to be like, oh, is that it?
I mean, that's what I loved about Predator. Is like, okay, you didn't see it, then you saw it, and then he took the mask off,
and then it was
like, whoa!
Yeah.
That whole movie's just awesome.
Like Chris was saying, the thing. Like you saw a lot of the thing, but it kept changing.
Yeah,
so
it was
you never
pieces
knew what to
and
expect.
stuff. And at the end, you don't even know if that's really its final form.
Exactly.
I mean, it
doesn't really have one.
It's just
it
a
just
mess.
changes constantly.
Well, we did see a lot when it was the dogs.
Yeah.
The whole the grabbing the roof and stuff. That was cool. The thing is, that's the thing. Any other questions? Stranger Things?
I preferred, first of all, I preferred Hopper.
like over the other characters? Because I mean, sure, 11 had psychic powers. He just used his fists.
Yeah. If he didn't like something, he's gonna hit you.
Yeah, he's just.
But what do you guys think about the mysterious new character from the second season, Max, that they've started talking
Haven't
about?
heard anything. I wouldn't know.
All I saw is the title of the first episode. That was it. I haven't seen pictures.
When it pops up on Netflix, I'll watch it. You know, there it is. I'm like, oh, now I'll just know everything. See, I think that's part of the problem now, is the internet with the whole between this is what it's going to be, and then they kind of ruin it in a way. To here's all the fan theories, which is nothing wrong with it, but when it's online, it's like, you know, who's Luke's daughter, that Rey, and all this stuff in Star Wars. Well, just watch the movie when it comes out. Please.
I almost think though that it's funny because sometimes, as a writer, you come up with something. You're like, I've got an idea,
right?
And then when you have a bunch of fans talking about it, you start reading some fan ideas. You're like, wait a minute, that guy, I don't know what he's been doing, but he's been spending like the last few months just doing nothing but thinking about this and coming up with this idea.
Which is
and
super
that's
nice
a really good idea, you know, and
scrap my thing.
Yeah, and everyone seems to love that idea too, so, you know.
But then the season fails, you're like, why?
Yeah, well, yeah, why listen?
Not always. I know, I'm terrible. I like, you know, I think that, you know, I'm like I said, old school, where, you know, a good example is, you know, growing up, the magazines like Fangoria and those kind of magazines. So when you knew something was coming, that was basically all you knew, or you heard word of mouth. That was the greatest. Is like, oh, this movie's coming out, and you start whispering to people, and they find out from other people, and it turns into something else, telephone game. But it sounds really cool, and you go see the movie, and either you didn't like it or you liked it or whatever. Now it's like everything's right there, and it's like, okay, thanks for that. Now I have no mystery, but that's just because I'm weird like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm ready for season 2. I don't know anything about it. I haven't heard anything. I kind of stayed away from it. So
I wonder if they're gonna do something with Hopper, like, 'cause he got in the limousine at the end.
Oh, she's got a nice.
What's your fan theory?
I read a lot of like theories and the news and stuff.
I know, I'm sorry I made fun.
No, Rachel did the same
He's up
thing.
with the latest. Come on. But apparently David said in some interview that there's more to his daughter, more to Hopper's daughter's cancer than they showed us. So I'm kind of interested to see more of the backstory with that and exactly how that is different than
Well, I
they
think
showed us.
by focusing on that a lot, I think that you know, even though it's more background for a character, it's like, why focus so much on that character? You know, it draws you in.
What is, I guess, what are all of you excited about most about season 2? Like, what do you want to see explored?
I'm hoping they ruin Tiamat.
He hopes they fix Indiana and the D&D.
No, because they're filming in Georgia still. So.
Yeah, I know. I don't expect it to suddenly start looking like Indiana.
They'll just go to a cornfield just for you.
There are cornfields in Georgia.
See?
Just north of Atlanta.
They're filming with the Walking Dead people. They're taking turns. Let me borrow this land.
I guess. Oh, go ahead.
For me, it would probably be what that secret government agency can come up with next.
Yeah.
Because you can go a million different ways with that. You know, I mean, the kids will always be the kids, these guys, but it's like, okay, well, what can we do with the secret government agency? And to a note someone had earlier, a lot of times I think, season 1 gets done, boom, and then they do their focus groups and they see what characters they like the most or the most popular, and then they'll spin off those people.
So Barb will be back, I'm sure.
Announced, like, yeah, no, we will get justice for Barb.
Or the spawn of Barb.
First 5.
I don't think they do focus groups anymore because now all you gotta do is follow the hashtag.
Twitter.
And and they're doing
that's true.
Social media does the focus groups
so
for
season
them.
2 revolves around the most popular people on that.
Who shot Hopper? It'd be like the whole of JR thing in Dallas. Like, Hopper wakes up, his daughter's alive, everything's good. It's a dream.
It's all a dream.
Just like Rick, except it'll be Shane that wakes up.
I don't know, to answer your question, I think I'd like to see more about the Upside Down and how that really works, because we went from a nothingness to a world that reversed, a negative version of the world, and that had to be created somehow. To me, that seems like it's illusion. It's strictly illusion. I bet you almost people could walk through things if they wanted to. They just visually see that and they interact with it.
I like that she came back out of that hole in the woods.
Well, yeah.
Where she came, but it was closing.
Yes.
So that's
Just
kinda,
healing back
I
up.
thought it was cool. I think the thing I liked about the most of the season and leading up to season 2 was it wasn't just like the monster, it wasn't just 11. It was, and it wasn't just the government group. It was all of it. You had this whole entire thing that was all kind of different, but very much connected. And it literally was connected, but it just wouldn't seem like it would be. So I thought that was really cool. Season 2, like I said, I haven't heard anything. I don't know anything. I'm just, when it comes up, I'll be surprised and I'll go with it, see what happens.
Yeah, same here. And I'm definitely, I want to know more about the Upside Down. Does everybody see it like that? You know, why did she see it the way she saw it, just as a black featureless void? Was it because of her powers? Is she still alive? What kind of deal did Hopper make? Because obviously there was more to it than just...
He's running the whole monkey farm now?
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I definitely want to see what kind of stuff he had to do to get them out of there.
Well, they're like, you're a man that can get things done.
How much money does Will's mom owe by now?
Oh,
all that stuff.
how much back pay is she having to do?
I work for free the whole rest of the year.
Yeah, she's gonna have
Actually,
to.
you brought up something. I mean, they found the boy alive, so how are they going to explain away the fake body? I mean, did they get a payment for that? I mean,
I'm pretty sure, like, now the government's like, what body? We put one there, we took it away.
Well, and that was,
He got better.
Gaslit.
It was a lot easier to do things like that in the 80s because, you know, you didn't have the internet or cell phones or all that, and they could just go, oh, it was a different dead
It was
child.
lights coming off a satellite in the fog.
It was one of those weird bloated fish things.
Yeah.
It's a puffer fish.
It was a log. We're highly trained professionals, and we mistook a log for a small child. So,
Listen,
They haven't the best of us.
We're in a suit. Listen to us.
Yeah.
Okay, so theory time. Here's my stupid theory. Because I am stupid. I think that with the whole Upside Down, are you ready? Blowing your minds. Basically, it is all reverse world. The reason why when 11 did it there is because maybe she didn't go to the Upside Down. She was doing the whole mind thing, and it was just some neutral spot. And so it was there, and again, it didn't really freak out until she freaked out. So, and then that kind of opened up to where it's from a link because she got scared near it or whatever. But I got nothing else.
From a filmmaker's standpoint, I think it's just budgetary stuff that they have to create all this stuff.
Don't kill it.
Put the gray filter on.
It's so much cheaper if we just have a dark area than opposed to
We
create
can
more.
film in the back of the convention center.
There you go.
Same with the filter. What a cheap movie.
There you go.
But the atmosphere was really effective, even though it was great.
yeah.
Simple. Absolutely.
Well, it was like I was saying earlier about how the movies that they were emulating, you know, most of those were pretty low budget movies. So they, you know, stripped things to make their money go as long as they could, and then, you know, when you're trying to emulate that, it does kind of give you some shortcuts.
And back then, blue screen, now green screen, but blue screen, green screen was very, very used very sparingly because it's not like now where you can throw up a green screen and I can edit on my phone.
Yeah.
Back then, it's all film, and it's like we got to do this
and half the time
sparingly.
you can see through the person.
Yeah. So back then, you know, so when they shot that dark area, literally they went to a place where it was dark.
Yeah.
And those movies, the budget they had, like we spent most of it on advertising and this giant monster that may or may not fall apart when it moves. You know, Pumpkinhead. What are you doing? No. Great movie, though, Pumpkinhead.
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering if Nancy was somehow affected too, because, you know, Will was in the Upside Down for 7 days, and he had the kind of, he threw up the slug, and then he thought he was in the Upside Down for a minute. And the atmosphere, they said, is toxic in the Upside Down, so if Will was in there for 7 days and he had those kind of side effects, Nancy was in there too for a shorter amount of time, but she also was in the toxic atmosphere, and then when she got back, she was kind of having those flashbacks too. So I wonder if she might have been affected too. Not
Maybe,
as much.
I think
as
it's
Will,
more of
but
she wasn't there long enough to really get exposure. I think. I don't know. I'm not a.
They definitely want to go that route. They can.
Yeah, they could. They can do whatever they want. I don't even work there. I don't know.
And she's our insider.
I actually said
Let her run the show. I don't know.
I actually said to email to Petey you get the Duffer Brothers, but he told me that they politely said no.
Oh, I'm sorry. They got everybody else.
Yeah.
Wait, what? I don't even work for Petey. What am I doing? I can't answer questions. Are we having fun?
You got 3 minutes.
All right, it's time to go. That's Stranger Things. Isn't it fun? I like the show. He doesn't. I think Duke, because you're in here, and if you do see the kids, don't mention any of this.
I'm right next door. They might be able to hear us.
Just bang on the door 3 times and see if it opens up. But thank you. Next up is the Human Terror. Thank you. This is probably the busiest channel since Chicken Twister.